I never believed in ghosts or curses or any of that nonsense. I'm a mechanic, 42 years old, divorced, living in a rundown duplex on the edge of UHGA, where the desert wind howls through cracked windows at night. My days are oil stains and torque wrenches. My nights are cheap beer and whatever's on the pirated satellite channels. That changed last October when I took the job fixing old man Hassan's truck. Hassan ran a small farm outside town, goats and olives mostly. He called me at dawn, voice shaky, on the phone. "The engine's dead again, Kareem. Come quick. It's acting up." I knew his truck, a battered '98 Toyota Hilux, from previous fixes. Carburetor issues, mostly. Nothing unusual. I loaded my tools into my van and drove out. The sun already baking the dirt road. The farm was isolated, 10 kilometers from the nearest neighbor, ringed by scrub brush and those twisted argan trees that look like they're clawing at the sky. Hassan's place was a concrete shack with a corrugated roof, goats bleating in a pen nearby. He met me at the gate, older than I remembered, mid-70s, skin like leather, eyes sunken. "It's in the barn," he muttered, not meeting my gaze. No small talk, no tea offered. Unusual for him. The barn was a low stone structure, door half-rotted. Inside, the Hilux sat under a tarp, engine bay exposed from my last visit. I pulled the tarp off fully and got to work. Battery was fine, fuel line clear. But when I turned the key, it coughed to life for a split second, then died with a wet, gurgling choke, like something sucking the air out. Oil pressure dropped to 0. I checked the pan, bone dry. "You run it without oil again?" I asked. Hassan hovered in the doorway, shaking his head. "No, Kareem, I swear. It was full last night. We topped it off from a jerry can. Engine started smooth, idled perfect. I revved it, nothing wrong." "You're good," I said, wiping my hands. But as I packed up, Hassan grabbed my arm. His grip was iron. "Don't leave yet. Stay for lunch, please." His eyes darted to the shadows in the corner, where a pile of rusted tools glinted. I shrugged it off. Old men get paranoid. But I stayed. Lunch was Tajon, goat meat, tough and flavorful. We ate in silence. Then he spoke. "This land, it belonged to my father. Before the French left, something happened here. In the war, people buried things they shouldn't." I nodded politely, finishing my plate. That's when I noticed the photo on the wall, faded black and white. A group of men in jellabas standing by the barn, all smiling, except one in the back, face blurred like the film had melted. Hassan followed my eyes. "My uncle's crew, they dug a well here, deep one. Hit water, but not just water," he trailed off, staring at his hands. I laughed it off. "Superstition, uncle. Trucks don't care about ghosts." He didn't laugh. "Drive careful on the way back." The road home was empty, sun dipping low. My van's radio crackled with static, no signal out here. About halfway, my rearview mirror fogged up. I wiped it, nothing. Then a shape, a handprint, palm down, fingers splayed, pressing from inside the glass. Heart jumped. I slammed the brakes, skidded to a stop. Mirror was clear now, just dust. Tricks of the light, exhaustion. I drove on. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The handprint burned in my mind. Around 2 a.m., a noise from the kitchen, drip, drip, drip. My sink had been dry for weeks. Plumbing's crap in the duplex. I checked. Faucet off. No leak. But the counter had a wet smear, like oil mixed with mud. Smelled like diesel and earth. I wiped it, went back to bed. Dreamed of Degina deep pit, walls slick with black ooze, hands pulling me down. Next morning, Hassan called again. It's dead. Come now. Irritated, I went. Same issue. Engine seized, oil gone. We refilled. It ran. But this time, as I tested it, the radio flipped on static. Then a voice, garbled Arabic. Makbarat, Makbarat, graveyard. I shut it off quick. Hassan paled. That's not the station. It's the well, he finally told me. During the war, his uncle's men weren't digging water. They were hiding bodies. Moroccan fighters, killed by French patrols, dumped quick to avoid reprisals. But one wasn't dead. A boy, maybe 16, wounded but alive, screaming as they shoveled dirt over him. The well sealed it all. Corpses, screams, the truck they used to haul them. It moves at night, Hassan whispered. Drains itself, like blood from a wound. Bullshit. I finished the job, charged him double for the hassle. But on the drive back, the handprint returned in my van's mirror. Clearer, 5 fingers distinct, nails black with grime. I pulled over, smashed the mirror with a rock. Glass shattered, but as I drove, shards on the seat rearranged themselves into that print. Home. The dripping started. Earlyard. Kitchen floor slick. Footprints, tracking in, small ones like a child's, leading to the bathroom. Door was shut. I never shut it. Inside, faucet gushing thick black fluid, not water, clogged the drain, overflowed ankle deep. I plunged it, cursing hair and bone fragments caught in the trap. Tiny, human-like. Flushed them, mopped up, called my landlord. Fix the pipes, tomorrow. Couldn't sleep. Pacing, I heard scratching from the walls. Faint at first, then rhythmic, like nails on wood. Followed it to the bedroom closet. Opened it, nothing but coats and boxes. But behind the panel, a loose brick in the shared wall. Pushed it gap to the neighbor's side. Empty duplex unit. No one lived there. Scratching stopped. Phone rang. Hassan. Kareem, get here now. It's out. Voice broke. I grabbed my pistol-load service revolver from Army days and drove. Night had fallen. Stars sharp. Farm gate open. Goats silent. Barn door ajar. Flashlight beam caught the helix. Hood up. Engine bay empty, like scooped out. Oil trail leading deeper into the barn. Hassan was inside, slumped against a wall, eyes wide, mouth agape, throat slashed, blood pooled not, red, oily black. Beside him, the well-circular pit, 10 feet wide, stone lip crumbling. Smell hit me, rot, diesel, wet earth. I shone the light down, bottomless dark, 20 feet at least, walls veined with roots like veins. Something bubbled up a gurgle. Then the whispers started. Not in my head reel, layered voices, men's and a boy's, pleading in Arabic, Anahay. Dig me out. My skin crawled. Footsteps behind measlo wet slaps. Turned. Silhouette in the doorway. Child-sized, dripping. Face wrong half-formed, eyes milky voids, hands elongated, fingers too many. It lunged. I fired 6 shots, point blank. Bullets punched through mist. It dissipated, reformed closer, dropped the gun, ran for the truck. Keys in ignition. Hassan Mustav tried it. Turned over, engine flooded instantly. oil spewing from the block like vomit. Abandoned it, sprinted for my van. Something in the back thumps. I floored it, 120 kilometers per hour on dirt. Home at last, barricaded inside, dripping everywhere, now ceiling, walls weeping black. Footprints multiplied, circling my bed. Dawn came. Landlord arrived with a plumber, showed them the mess, pipes clean, no source for the fluid. You imagining things. Plumber laughed. I didn't argue. Went back to work, took the day off Hassan's pay, but tonight it's worse. Scratching everywhere, under the floorboards. I pried one up, dirt, fresh dug tunnel, sloping down. Smell rising, same as the well. Whispers louder. Kareem, you fixed it. Now fix us. Hands emerging pale, clawing at the edges. Small ones first, then larger, pulling up torsos twisted wrong. I'm writing this on my phone, battery dying. Pistols empty. Landlord's number won't connect. The duplex wall gap. It's widening, faces pressing through, mouthing silent screams. The well's here, now, under my feet, gurgling. They're climbing. I can feel the oil draining from my veins, cold and thick. It's real. They're real. And they're hungry for the living to join them. Don't dig. Whatever you do, don't dig. I was 17 the summer. My cousin Leo vanished. We were staying at his family's old lakeside cabin near Blackwater. A place so remote you had to drive 20 miles on a dirt road just to get cell service. The cabin had belonged to our great-grandfather, a stern man, Leo said, used to skin raccoons on the porch and hang their pelts from the rafters like trophies. I never saw any pelts, but the porch still smelled faintly of iron and damp fur. Leo was 2 years older than Mateen that summer and already talked like he'd seen everything worth seeing. He smoked hand-rolled cigarettes behind the woodshed and listened to vinyl records on a battered turntable salvaged from a thrift store in town. His favorite album was something obscure by a band called The Hollow Men. He played it constantly, especially the last track, a 10-minute drone with whispered lyrics about sleepwalkers and drowned churches. It made my skin crawl, but I never told him that. I wanted him to think I was cool. We'd been there 3 days when the trouble started. It began with the radio. Not the record player, the actual AM radio in the kitchen, the kind with dials and static hiss. Late one night, after Leo had passed out on the couch with an empty whiskey bottle dangling from his fingers, I heard it crackle to life on its own. No one had touched it. The volume knob was turned all the way down. Yet there it was, a low, rhythmic thumping beneath garbled voices speaking in what sounded like Latin, or maybe not Latin, something older, something wetter. The kind of language that makes your throat tighten just imagining it spoken aloud. I turned it off, unplugged it. Still, the sound lingered in my ears for hours, like tinnitus shaped into words. The next morning, Leo found deep scratches on the inside of the front door, 3 parallel gouges running from waist height down to the floorboards. They looked fresh, too fresh. When I asked him if he'd done it as some kind of joke, he just stared at them like they were written in blood only he could read. He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed his boots and walked down to the lake without saying another word. That afternoon, while he was gone, I explored the basement. I shouldn't have. Leo had warned me never to go down there alone. It's unstable, he'd said. The floorboards are rotten, and there's mold that'll eat your lungs out. But curiosity won. The hatch was hidden beneath a threadbare rug in the hallway, its iron ring cold even through my glove. The stairs creaked like bones snapping underfoot. The basement was worse than I imagined. Not because of the rot or the mildew, because of the walls. Every inch of concrete block was covered in markings. Not graffiti. Not random scribbles. Some looked like inverted crosses fused with eyes. Others resembled constellations I didn't recognize. And in the center of the far wall, painted in what I prayed was rust, was a single phrase: "He walks when the water is still." I took a photo with my phone. The flash reflected oddly off the symbols. They seemed to shimmer, just for a second, like oil on water. When I got back upstairs, the image was corrupted. All I saw was static and a dark shape crouched in the corner of the frame. Leo returned at dusk. Soaked to the bone, though. The sky was clear. He wouldn't tell me where he'd been, or why his clothes were dripping. His eyes were red-rimmed, pupils dilated even in the dim light of the cabin. He kept glancing toward the lake, as if expecting something to emerge from it. That night, we argued. "You've been acting weird since we got here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Like you're waiting for something." He laughed, a dry, broken sound. "Maybe I am." "What? What are you waiting for?" He lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. "You ever hear the story about Old Man Griggs?" I hadn't. "He lived here before my grandfather," Leo said, smoke curling around his face like a shroud. "They say he went mad one summer. Started talking to the lake like it answered back. Said there was a presence beneath the surface. A watcher. Something that slept until the water grew calm. And one morning they found his rowboat floating empty in the middle of the lake. No body. No note. Gone." I rolled my eyes. "That's just a ghost story." Leo's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Is it?" The next day, the power went out. Not just at the cabinette, the whole grid. No storms, no wind, just silence and darkness. Leo didn't seem surprised. He lit candles and dragged the record player onto the porch, played the Hollow Men again. This time, I noticed something I hadn't before. During the final minute of the last track, there was a faint voice whispering beneath the music, not singing, speaking in English. Asterisk, "Come to the water. He's waiting." Asterisk, I froze. Leo just nodded slowly, like he'd been expecting it. "Turn it off," I whispered. He didn't. Instead, he stood up, walked to the edge of the porch, and stared at the lake. The surface was glassy, undisturbed. Not a ripple, not a breath of wind, and yet something moved beneath it. A shadow, darker than the depths, gliding just below the surface, long-limbed, watching. I grabbed Leo's arm. "We need to leave now." He pulled away gently. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I already promised." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the cabin sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind carried whispers. Around 2 a.m., I heard the front door open, quietly, deliberately. I crept to the hallway and saw Leo walking barefoot toward the lake, wearing nothing but his boxers. His skin was pale under the moonlight, almost translucent, and his eyes, they weren't his anymore. They were black, fully black, like obsidian marbles reflecting nothing. I followed him, keeping to the trees. He stopped at the water's edge and knelt. Then he began to chant, not in Latin, but in that same guttural tongue I'd heard on the radio. The lake responded, not with waves, but with a low hum that vibrated through the ground and into my bones. The water parted slightly, not like Moses, but like lips opening. Something rose, not fully, just enough. A hand, long-fingered, webbed, gray as drowned flesh, reached out and touched Leo's forehead. He didn't flinch. He smiled. Then it pulled him under. I screamed. Or tried to. My throat locked. I ran back to the cabin, slammed the door, shoved the dresser against it, sat in the dark, shaking, listening to the silence outside grow heavier, thicker, like it was pressing against the walls. Morning came. Weak sunlight filtered through the dusty windows. The lake was still again, perfectly still, as if nothing had happened. I packed what I could carry and left, didn't look back. Drove straight to the nearest town and called my parents. Told them Leo had wandered off into the woods and I couldn't find him. They believed me, or pretended to. The police searched for a week, dragged the lake, found nothing. Declared him missing, presumed drowned. But I know better, because sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and the air feels too thick to breathe, I hear it again, the whisper beneath the static, and I see him. Not as he was, but as he became, standing waist-deep in black water, eyes empty, mouth moving in that alien tongue. And he's not alone. There are others with him now. Shapes moving beneath the surface, watching, waiting. Last month, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a vinyl record, The Hollow Men, original pressing, and a note written in handwriting that was almost Leo's, but not quite. Asterisk, the water is still again. He's asking for you. Asterisk, I haven't played it, but I keep it on my shelf, because part of me wants to hear his voice one more time, even if it's not really him, even if it's something wearing his skin. I check the lakes near my apartment every evening. Make sure the surface is rippling. Make sure it's never calm, because I know what happens when the water is still. He walks, and he remembers who left him behind. I never believed in ghosts, not until the house on Elm Street swallowed my brother whole. It started with a whisper, not the kind you hear in dreams or half-asleep murmurs, but something sharp and deliberate, like someone pressing their lips against your ear while you're wide awake. I was 16 then, and Jake, my older brother by 2 years, had just signed the lease on that crumbling Victorian off the edge of town. He'd always been the reckless one, dropped out of college, worked odd jobs, chased cheap thrills like they were oxygen. When he told me he got the place for practically nothing, I should have known better. Nothing in this world comes without a price. The house sat at the end of a dead-end street, its paint peeling like sunburnt skin, windows boarded up on the second floor like it was winking with one eye shut. The realtor, gaunt man with yellowed nails and a voice like dry leaves, handed Jake the keys with trembling fingers and refused to step inside. "Just sign here," he muttered, avoiding our eyes. Jake laughed it off. "Probably thinks we're squatters," he said, tossing me a beer as we lugged boxes through the front door. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something metallic, like old blood. The walls were stained with watermarks that looked disturbingly like handprints. Upstairs, the floorboards groaned underfoot, not with the usual creak of age, but with a wet, sucking sound, as if the wood itself was breathing. I mentioned it to Jake once, and he just grinned, slapping the wall. Old houses talk, little bro. Means they've got stories. But this house didn't tell stories. It collected them. The first night, I woke to the sound of scratching. Not mice too rhythmic, too intentional. It came from the basement, a steady scritch, 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 like fingernails on concrete. I grabbed a flashlight and crept down, heart hammering against my ribs. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing rusted pipes, cobwebs thick as shrouds, and a single wooden chair in the center of the room. On the seat, 3 long black hairs that hadn't been there before. Jake found me staring at them the next morning. "Rats," he said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. That afternoon, he nailed fresh boards over the basement door. Then came the whispers. At first, they were faint, just syllables, drifting through the vents when the house was quiet. I'd catch them out of the corner of my hearing, like someone trying to say my name, but getting it wrong. Ethan. I chalked it up to stress. We'd been working double shifts to afford the rent, and sleep was a luxury. But Jake heard them too. One night, I found him standing in the hallway, eyes wide and glassy, muttering, "It's not mine." When I asked what he meant, he just shook his head and walked away. The temperature in the house began to drop. Not gradually, suddenly, violently. One moment, it'd be warm. The next, your breath would fog the air and your skin would prickle with goosebumps. The thermostat read 72 degrees, but the cold clung to you like a second skin. I started wearing layers indoors, sleeping with gloves. Jake stopped sleeping altogether. He'd pace the halls at night, barefoot on the freezing floors, talking to himself in low, urgent tones. I tried to convince him to leave. "This place is making us sick," I said, holding up my arms to show him the bruises blooming along my forearms, deep purple crescents I hadn't noticed forming. He just stared at me, his pupils dilated, and whispered, "It's almost done." "Done with what?" He didn't answer. Then mirrors started lying. I'd catch glimpses of movement behind me in the bathroom. Glass a shadow darting past the doorway. A figure standing in the hall, but when I turned, there was nothing. Once, I swear, I saw Jake's reflection blink while he stood still in front of me. Another time, my own reflection smiled when I didn't. I covered all the mirrors with sheets, but the feeling of being watched never left. It lived in the corners of the rooms, in the spaces between the floorboards. In the silence that followed every sound, Jake grew thinner. His eyes sank into his skull, and his hands shook constantly. He stopped eating, stopped showering. He'd spend hours in the attic, muttering to something only he could see. I'd hear him up there, dragging heavy objects across the floor, followed by the sound of something wet hitting the walls. When I climbed the stairs to check on him, he'd be sitting cross-legged in the center of the room, surrounded by symbols carved into the wood, crude, jagged things that made my stomach turn. "Don't come in here," he'd hiss, his voice raw. "It doesn't like visitors." I should have run then. Called the police. Set the damn place on fire. But I was scared, not just of the house, but of what I might find if I pushed too hard. So I stayed, and the house rewarded my cowardice. It started showing me things, flashes in the periphery. A child's hand reaching from under my bed, a face pressed against the window at night, pale and grinning. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. They weren't just saying my name anymore, they were telling me things, secrets, horrible, impossible things, about Jake, about our parents, about what really happened the night our dog disappeared when we were kids. Things I couldn't possibly know, but felt true in my bones. One evening, I found Jake in the kitchen, staring at the stove. The burners were off, but the air above them shimmered with heat. He held a butcher knife in one hand, its blade dark with something that wasn't oil. It showed me how to fix it, he said, not looking at me. How to make it stop. Make what stop? The hunger. I backed away slowly, my pulse roaring in my ears. That night, I packed a bag. I left a note on the counter, gone to stay with Mark, call me, and slipped out the back door. The moment my foot hit the porch, the wind died. The streetlights flickered, and from inside the house, I heard Jake laugh, a sound so broken and wrong it made me vomit on the driveway. I didn't go to Mark's. I drove to a motel 20 miles away, paid cash for a room, and sat on the bed with my back against the wall, waiting for sunrise. I called Jake the next morning. No answer. Tried again that afternoon. Still nothing. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know if he was okay. The house was silent when I returned. Too silent. No hum of electricity. No creak of wood. Just a hollow, waiting quiet. The front door swung open at my touch, though I hadn't unlocked it. Inside, the air was warmer than ever, thick with the stench of rotting meat. Jake. My voice echoed down the empty hall. No answer. I checked his room first. The bed was stripped bare, the mattress slashed open, stuffing spilling out like guts. His clothes were gone. His phone lay on the floor, screen cracked, battery dead. Then I saw the trail. Smears of something dark led from his room to the basement door, the one he'd nailed shut. The boards were gone. The door hung open, revealing a yawning blackness below. And from that darkness came a sound I'll never forget, a wet, gulping noise, like something swallowing. I should have turned and run. But I was his brother. I had to know. The stairs groaned under my weight as I descended, each step colder than the last. At the bottom, my flashlight beam caught the chair in the center of the room. It was facing the far wall, where the concrete was covered in those same jagged symbols from the attic. And tied to the Chero god, it was Jake, or what was left of him. His skin was gray, stretched taut over his bones. His eyes were gone, just black pits weeping a thick, tar-like fluid. His mouth hung open in a silent scream, jaw dislocated, tongue swollen and blackened. Ropes bit into his wrists and ankles, but they weren't the kind you buy at a hardware store. They looked organic, fibrous, pulsing faintly, like veins. Just a twitch of his head toward me. His lips parted, and a voice that wasn't his deep, guttural, layered with 100 other voices, rasped, "You came back." I stumbled backward, bile rising in my throat. Jake, oh God, Jake, what did it do to you? The thing in the chair laughed, a wet, bubbling sound. "It's not him anymore," it said. "He's part of the house now. Like the others. The beam of my flashlight trembled as I swept it around the room. That's when I saw them in the corners, half buried in the walls, were shapes, faces, dozens of them, mouths open in silent agony, eyes wide with terror. Some were fresh, skin still clinging to bone. Others were little more than skulls, moss growing in their eye sockets. All of them staring at me. The house is hungry. The thing that was, Jake whispered. It always is. But it likes you, Ethan. It's been waiting for you. I turned to run, but the stairs were gone. In their place was a solid wall of pulsating flesh, veined and glistening. The floor beneath me softened, becoming sticky, adhesive. I screamed, clawing at the concrete, but it was no use. The house had me. That was 3 weeks ago. I don't know how I'm writing this. Maybe it's letting me. Maybe it wants you to know. The thing that wore my brother's skin told me the house chooses its caretakers. Those who feed it survive. Those who don't become part of the walls. Jake tried to fight it. That's why it hurt him so much. But I've learned. I bring it things now. Strays, hitchhikers, anyone who won't be missed. The hunger quiets for a while after. The whispers soften. Sometimes, if I'm good, it even lets me sleep. But I can feel it watching me, always. In the mirrors I uncovered. In the shadows that move when I'm not looking. In the way the floorboards sigh when I walk across them. It's patient. It knows I'll slip up eventually. And when I do, God help me, I can already feel the walls breathing.